Emotionally detaching from someone might seem impossible, but what if you could do it without pain or resentment? Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, offers a clear and practical path to achieving this inner freedom. Forget the need for physical distance or drastic breakups. With just 5 Stoic rules, you can turn your pain into strength, regain control of your emotions, and find the peace you've been searching for, all in a quick and effective way. Ready to find out how? Let's get straight to the point. Please help us share this message of hope and encouragement with others who might be at their own crossroads, unsure of what the future holds, by liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Topic 1. The power of detachment. Detachment is a powerful key to emotional freedom. Imagine your life as a kite that, when tied to a string, is controlled by the wind without a clear direction. Often, we attach ourselves to people, situations, or even ideas, allowing them to guide our emotions like the wind guides the kite. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, teaches that true power lies in learning to detach, to release that string that binds us and leaves us at the mercy of external influences. But beware, detachment is not about becoming cold or insensitive. On the contrary, it's a process of discernment, knowing how to differentiate between what is within our control and what is not. Thus, we can live with more lightness and serenity, something the Stoics deeply valued. The modern Stoic understands that excessive attachment is a sure path to unhappiness. When we cling, we place our well-being in the hands of factors often beyond our control. For example, we attach ourselves to a promotion at work, believing it will define our worth. However, when we don't get this promotion, we fall into sadness and frustration. Here lies the lesson of Stoicism. The promotion itself is outside our control, but how we react to it is not. By practicing detachment, we gain the ability to redirect our energy to what we can truly control, such as our personal development and daily discipline. Identifying what binds us is the first step towards detachment. The Stoics teach us that we must recognize our attachments and examine their roots. Sometimes we are so accustomed to certain patterns of thought and behavior that we don't even realize how attached we are to them. Think of a situation where you clung to a toxic relationship, believing you needed that person to be happy. It's common and human, but the Stoic knows that this happiness is illusory. True happiness and inner peace come from within, not from external circumstances. A practical exercise you can do is to list on a piece of paper the things or people you are attached to, and reflect on how these dependencies impact your life. Detachment is not a one-time act, but a constant practice. On our personal development journey, being a better person means learning to let go, to release what no longer serves us. This could be a job that no longer brings satisfaction, a relationship that has stagnated, or even habits that prevent us from growing. Every day upon waking, the modern Stoic can practice detachment by reflecting on what is essential and what can be left behind. This not only eases the mind, but also opens up space for new opportunities and experiences that truly add value to life. Often, attachment gives us a false sense of security. We imagine that by holding on tightly to something, we are guaranteeing our happiness or success. However, Stoicism teaches that this security is an illusion. A simple example, think of how we cling to material goods, believing they will bring us status or recognition. But when we lose these goods, we realize that our true essence was not there. To practice detachment, start with small daily actions, such as donating something you no longer use or disconnecting from social networks that bring more anxiety than joy. The Stoic knows that detachment is a tool of freedom, not indifference. By detaching, we are not distancing ourselves from people or things, but rather getting closer to our essence, to who we really are. This allows us to love and connect with others more genuinely, without the chains of fear or the need for control. When we practice detachment, we cultivate a healthier and more balanced mindset, focused on the present and on the things that truly matter, such as our character, our wisdom, and the way we treat others. And so, by detaching, we begin to better understand the ego and its illusions. It is at this point that we realize how much detachment frees us from the traps of the ego, paving the way for a fuller and more genuine life. Detachment is not just letting go, but opening the doors to a new understanding of yourself and the world around you. Topic 2. Understanding attachment. Understanding attachment is fundamental for anyone seeking to delve deeper into Stoic philosophy and personal development. From an early age, we are shaped by pure and unconditional love. But as we grow, the ego begins to take control, bringing with it attachments that distance us from our true essence. Attachment is often a construction of the ego, a way to protect ourselves from the uncertainties of life, but it ends up imprisoning us in a cycle of need and dependency. The Stoics teach us that living from love instead of the ego is a conscious choice that leads us to inner peace and true emotional freedom. When we live dominated by the ego, we fall into the trap of believing that our worth is tied to the things or people we are attached to. Be it a romantic relationship, a job, or even social approval, we convince ourselves that these things define who we are. However, Stoicism challenges us to reverse this perspective. Instead of seeking external validation, we are invited to find our intrinsic value. Recognizing that we are complete by ourselves, regardless of external circumstances, is a crucial step towards detachment and emotional liberation. This shift in perspective, from living by love instead of ego, may seem difficult at first, but it is essential for anyone seeking to be a better person. The Stoics remind us that true love is abundant and does not rely on possessing or controlling. For example, in a relationship, we often cling out of fear of losing the loved one, believing that our happiness depends on that union. However, by learning to detach, we realize that true love does not impose conditions or demands, it simply is. This understanding allows us to love more healthily, without the chains of fear or insecurity. Stoic philosophy encourages us to question our motivations and distinguish between what is born of love and what is a creation of the ego. Ask yourself, are you attached to something because you truly love it, or because you fear losing it? This reflection is powerful and can transform how you see the world and your relationships. By doing this exercise, you begin to identify attachments that may be rooted in insecurities or a distorted view of yourself. Detachment in this context becomes a practice of liberation, an act of self-love that brings us closer to our true essence. The Stoics believed that living from love means living in alignment with nature, accepting what life offers us without resistance. This does not mean passivity, but rather a deep trust that what is rightfully ours will come to us. Life becomes lighter when we stop fighting against the natural flow of things and accept that our worth does not depend on what we possess or who approves of us. Living this way allows us to experience life more fully and with less anxiety, cultivating inner peace that is unshakable by external circumstances. This journey of detachment begins with self-acceptance and self-knowledge. The Stoics teach us that true emotional freedom comes when we accept who we are, with all our imperfections. When we no longer need external validation to feel complete, we free ourselves from the chains that bind us to the ego. This process can be initiated with simple practices such as meditation or reflective writing, where we can explore our deepest feelings and beliefs. By understanding what truly motivates our attachments, we begin to move towards a freer and fuller life. Thus, as we deepen our understanding of attachment, we begin to unmask the illusions created by the ego. And in doing so, we open up space to see the world and ourselves more clearly and truthfully, preparing the ground to confront these illusions and take the next step in our journey of personal and emotional growth. Topic 3. The illusion of the ego. The illusion of the ego is a subtle but powerful trap that makes us believe we need external validation to be happy or complete. The ego leads us to idolize others, to put those we admire on pedestals, forgetting that deep down we are all equally human and vulnerable. The Stoics teach us that this incessant quest for approval and validation is a form of emotional slavery. By confronting this illusion, we realize that our true strength comes from within, from our ability to be self-sufficient and to value what really matters, our character and our wisdom. When we live in the illusion of the ego, it is easy to fall into the trap of comparison. The ego makes us believe that we need to be better, richer, or more successful than others to have value. However, the Stoics, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, remind us that the true measure of success is not in possessions or status, but in how we live our lives and treat others. Stoic philosophy invites us to abandon these destructive comparisons and focus on our personal development, cultivating the discipline and resilience that make us truly strong. A practical example of this illusion is the feeling of envy that often arises when we see someone else's success, especially on social media. The ego makes us believe that we are falling behind, that we should have what the other has. However, Stoicism teaches us to look inward, to seek satisfaction in our own achievements, and to appreciate what we have already accomplished. By recognizing that everyone has their own path and timing, we can free ourselves from this prison and focus on becoming the best version of ourselves without the need to compete or compare. The practice of detachment in relation to the ego begins with the acceptance of our common humanity. All of us at some point have felt inadequate or insecure, and that is what makes us human. The Stoics believed in the fundamental equality between people, regardless of their social status or wealth. By internalizing this idea, we can begin to detach from the need to be seen in a certain way by others. And this allows us to live more authentically and fully. To detach from the ego, it is important to cultivate self-esteem based on who we really are, and not on what we possess or what others think of us. This can be done through practices such as Stoic meditation, where we reflect on our nature and our core values. A practical example is to dedicate a few minutes at the end of the day to think about our actions, asking ourselves if they were aligned with our values, or if they were influenced by the desire to please others. This habit helps us build a solid foundation of self-confidence that does not depend on external validation. From this new perspective, we can begin to see the ego for what it really is, a mental construct that serves more to protect us from insecurities than to help us grow. By recognizing this, we become freer to love without fear, to live without the shackles of others' opinions, and to embrace our own journey with more serenity. The Stoics remind us that true freedom comes from within, and that detachment from the ego is an essential step in that direction. Understanding the illusion of the ego is fundamental to practicing detachment healthily. And as we uncover these illusions, we prepare to apply detachment practically in our lives, freeing ourselves from experiences and relationships that no longer serve us. Topic 4. Practical detachment. Practical detachment is undoubtedly one of the most transformative lessons Stoicism offers us. It is not enough to simply understand the concept. It is necessary to apply it in our daily lives, to let go of what binds us and move forward. Often we hold tightly to past experiences and relationships out of fear of the unknown. This fear, fueled by the ego, makes us believe that we need these things or people to be happy. However, the Stoics remind us that by detaching, we open up space for new opportunities, growth, and true happiness. A practical example of detachment is the decision to leave behind a job that no longer brings satisfaction. We often remain in comfortable but stagnant situations out of fear of what might happen if we choose to leave. However, Stoicism teaches us that comfort and security should not be our guides. By detaching from a job that no longer challenges or allows us to grow, we enable new doors to open, leading us to paths that can provide a fuller life aligned with our values. The fear of losing something or someone also binds us to unrealistic comparisons, especially in the age of social media. We live in a society that constantly exposes us to the success and happiness of others, creating pressure to reach standards that often do not reflect reality. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, instead of comparing ourselves to others. By practicing detachment, we free ourselves from these external influences and learn to define our happiness on our own terms, based on what is truly important to us. Detachment also means learning to let go of relationships that have already served their purpose in our lives. Sometimes we insist on maintaining connections that no longer bring joy or growth out of fear of being alone or hurting the other person. However, the Stoics believed that it is better to be at peace with oneself than to remain in situations that corrode us from within. A practical example would be reflecting on your relationships and identifying which ones still make sense in your life. If something or someone no longer contributes to your well-being, perhaps it is time to detach with gratitude for what was, but with the courage to move forward. To practice detachment effectively, it is important to focus on the present and what is within our control. A useful exercise is daily meditation, where one focuses on breathing and the present moment, letting go of worries about the past or anxieties about the future. By doing this, we learn to live more fully, without the shackles of attachment to things we can no longer change or predict. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom comes from within, from a calm mind focused on the now. Another aspect of practical detachment is learning to let go of expectations we create about ourselves and others. Often we cling to ideas of how things should be, which only causes frustration and disappointment when reality does not match our expectations. Stoicism encourages us to accept things as they are instead of fighting against them. This does not mean resignation, but rather a serene acceptance of life as it is. By letting go of these expectations, we open up space for acceptance and for living more authentically and happily. And so, by applying detachment in our daily lives, we begin to move towards true happiness, which does not depend on external circumstances, but on our ability to find peace and contentment within ourselves. And this path of detachment naturally leads us to the understanding that happiness is something we build from the inside out, a journey we will continue to explore in the next topic. Topic 5. The path to happiness. The path to happiness, according to Stoicism, is not found in the things we possess or the people around us, but in something much deeper and more enduring: our character, wisdom, and how we treat others. Often we are led to believe that happiness lies out there, in something we have not yet achieved, such as a new accomplishment, an ideal relationship, or social approval. However, the Stoics show us that this incessant quest is actually a form of slavery. True happiness is cultivated internally, from a life lived with virtue and purpose. When we think that happiness depends on another person, we end up imprisoning ourselves in others' expectations and whims. How many times have we heard stories of people who believed they would only be happy when they were in a relationship or when they were recognized for their work? And how many times have these same people discovered over time that the happiness they sought did not come from these external achievements? Stoicism teaches us that detachment is the key to this liberation. By detaching from the idea that we need something external to be happy, we open up space to find happiness in our own growth and personal development. Being a better person, according to the Stoics, means getting closer to our true essence, the one that does not depend on external circumstances to find peace and contentment. When we begin to focus on our own growth, on developing our virtues, and living with integrity, we discover that happiness becomes a natural consequence of this process. A practical example is investing time in activities that promote our personal development, such as reading classic philosophy, practicing meditation, or even volunteering. These are ways to nourish our being, to cultivate happiness that is independent of external influences. This process of self-confidence and personal growth allows us to fly freely, like a kite that, now released, moves with grace and lightness. It's not that we distance ourselves from people with indifference, but rather that we learn to love and relate in a healthier way, without the chains of emotional dependency. The modern Stoic understands that by practicing detachment, he is not renouncing people or things, but is instead getting closer to his true nature, the one capable of finding joy and peace in any situation. One of the great benefits of this path is the clarity it brings to our lives. When we stop seeking happiness in the wrong places, we begin to see more clearly what really matters. We become less susceptible to external influences, such as others' opinions or social pressures, and more aligned with our values and purposes. This gives us a sense of freedom that is difficult to describe but deeply transformative. Happiness then ceases to be a distant goal and becomes a daily experience, something we cultivate and enjoy at every moment. By focusing on our own growth and development, we begin to understand that a full life is not something that happens by chance, but rather something we build, brick by brick, decision by decision. This full life is what the Stoics called eudaimonia, a kind of deep and lasting happiness that comes from living in harmony with our nature and with the principles of virtue. When we reach this state, we discover that true happiness is not a quest, but a journey we are already on. And so, by continuing on this journey of detachment and self-knowledge, we get closer and closer to happiness that does not depend on external circumstances, but flourishes from within. This journey, in turn, prepares us to embrace self-acceptance as an essential component of this emotional freedom and true happiness, which we will explore in the next topic. Topic 6. The importance of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is the foundation upon which we build an emotionally healthy and balanced life. However, we often find ourselves trapped in the pursuit of external validation, believing that our worth is conditional on others' approval. This is a common mistake, but one that can lead us into a vicious cycle of insecurity and dependency. The Stoics, masters at understanding human nature, teach us that true emotional freedom can only be achieved when we fully accept ourselves, with all our imperfections and flaws. By accepting ourselves, we not only free ourselves from the shackles of others' opinions, but also create an internal space of peace and self-confidence. When we talk about self-acceptance, we are not suggesting that we should conform or stagnate. On the contrary, it is only from full acceptance of who we are that we can begin the process of growth and personal transformation. Imagine someone who is constantly dissatisfied with themselves, trying to fill their gaps through others' approval. This constant effort is exhausting and ultimately unsatisfying. Stoicism offers us an alternative. By accepting our limitations and embracing our humanity, we find the solid foundation upon which we can build a fuller and more meaningful life. The pursuit of self-acceptance can be challenging in a society that values external appearance and material success so highly. However, the Stoics encourage us to look beyond superficialities and focus on what truly matters, our character and our actions. A practical example is the exercise of journaling or reflective writing, where one can explore thoughts and feelings honestly and without judgment. This habit can be a powerful ally in the journey of self-acceptance, allowing you to connect with your true essence and recognize the value you already possess, regardless of external circumstances. The emotional freedom that comes from self-acceptance is something many seek but few achieve. This is because it requires a degree of vulnerability and honesty with oneself that we are not always willing to face. However, the Stoics teach us that this is a necessary step to live a truly full life. When we recognize that we are enough by ourselves, we free ourselves from the expectations imposed by others and, more importantly, from the unrealistic expectations we often place on ourselves. This liberation gives us the strength to face life's challenges with more courage and resilience. Furthermore, self-acceptance allows us to cultivate healthier and more authentic relationships. When we are no longer tied to the need to please or impress others, we become more capable of genuinely connecting with the people around us. This authenticity is something the Stoics deeply valued because they knew that only when we are true to ourselves can we be true to others. Instead of seeking relationships based on approval or status, we can build connections based on mutual respect and understanding. The daily practice of self-acceptance is therefore one of the pillars of personal development and modern Stoicism. Small gestures of self-compassion, such as forgiving oneself for a mistake or allowing oneself a moment of rest, are important steps on this journey. By recognizing and accepting our flaws not as something to be lamented, but as an integral part of who we are, we begin to free ourselves from the chains of perfectionism and self-criticism. This process leads us to an inner peace that is unshakable by external criticism or momentary failures. And so, as we deepen our self-acceptance, we begin to understand the importance of cultivating inner peace. This peace, the result of a balanced mind and a calm heart, is the foundation for facing life's challenges with serenity and strength. In the next topic, we will explore how this inner peace can be cultivated and how it protects us from the emotional turbulence of daily life. Topic 7. Cultivating inner peace. Cultivating inner peace is like planting a garden in fertile soil. It requires time, patience, and the constant cultivation of healthy habits that nourish the mind and spirit. However, the effort is worth it, for this inner peace becomes a powerful shield against the emotional storms that life inevitably brings. The Stoics, with their millennial wisdom, teach us that inner peace is the result of deep self-knowledge and the daily practice of habits that promote mental and emotional well-being. Meditation, reflection, and forgiveness are some of the tools we can use to maintain this state of balance. Meditation, for example, is a practice that the Stoics incorporated into their daily routines. It is not necessarily about sitting in absolute silence, but rather taking time to reflect on life, on our actions, and on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest representatives of Stoicism, practiced this daily introspection, writing in his diary and reflecting on his thoughts and behaviors. Today, we can do the same, whether through guided meditation, reflective writing, or simply a moment of silence at the end of the day. This habit helps us maintain focus on what truly matters, keeping distractions and worries that threaten our peace at bay. Another fundamental practice for cultivating inner peace is forgiveness, both of ourselves and others. Often we carry grudges or regrets that, like stones, weigh on our hearts and prevent us from moving forward. The Stoics teach us that by forgiving, we are not only freeing the other person, but primarily ourselves. Forgiveness is an act of detachment, of letting go of what causes us pain and embracing emotional freedom. When we forgive, we create space in our minds and hearts for inner peace to flourish, allowing us to live more lightly and serenely. Self-knowledge also plays a crucial role in maintaining this peace. When we truly know ourselves, our values, limits, and motivations, we are less susceptible to external influences. The practice of self-knowledge can include anything from reading philosophical texts that make us question and reflect, to simply observing our thoughts and reactions throughout the day. By becoming more aware of who we are, we become stronger in the face of challenges because we know where our roots lie and what truly sustains us. Maintaining inner peace in a world full of distractions and external pressures may seem like a difficult task, but the Stoics show us that it is possible. By cultivating a state of emotional balance, we become less vulnerable to the tides of emotions that can destabilize us. This does not mean that we will not face challenges, but rather that we will be better prepared to face them with calmness and clarity. A practical example would be developing a morning routine that includes activities that calm the mind, such as reading, meditation, or even a peaceful walk. These moments of serenity at the start of the day can make a big difference in how we handle the rest of it. Inner peace, once cultivated, also helps us cope with losses and disappointments. When our minds are at peace, we are not so easily shaken by adversity. The Stoics believed that by accepting things as they are and focusing on what is within our control, we can maintain an attitude of equanimity even in difficult times. This serenity, the fruit of inner peace, allows us to face life's ups and downs with more grace and resilience without getting lost in the emotions of the moment. As we continue to cultivate this inner peace, we prepare ourselves to develop even greater resilience, a strength that allows us to face life's adversities without being overwhelmed by emotions. In the next topic, we will explore how detachment strengthens us, preparing us to face adversity with equanimity and courage. Topic 8. Detachment and resilience. Detachment is a powerful tool in building resilience, that ability to resist and adapt in the face of life's adversities. In Stoicism, learning to detach from what is beyond our control is a fundamental lesson that prepares us to face challenges with a calm mind and a steady heart. When we practice detachment, we recognize that we cannot control everything around us, but that we have full mastery over our response to the situations we face. This Stoic mindset is what allows us to deal with losses, failures, and changes without being consumed by negative emotions. One of the classic examples illustrating the power of detachment in building resilience is the story of Epictetus, one of the great masters of Stoicism, who lived much of his life as a slave. Despite difficult circumstances, he found freedom in his mind and developed incredible resilience by accepting what he could not change and focusing on what was under his control, his attitudes and thoughts. Epictetus teaches us that by practicing detachment, we are not becoming insensitive, but rather strengthening our ability to face the world with equanimity without being overwhelmed by setbacks. This resilience, built through detachment, empowers us to grow from challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as insurmountable barriers, the Stoics teach us to view them as opportunities for personal development. For example, when losing a job, we can despair, or we can see it as a chance to explore new opportunities, learn new skills, or even redirect our career towards something more aligned with our values. Detachment allows us to look at these situations with a new perspective, finding strength where there was once fear. In everyday life, this mindset of detachment can be applied in simple but powerful ways. Think about how we react when something small doesn't go as planned, like a traffic delay or a misunderstanding with a coworker. These situations, though seemingly trivial, can generate unnecessary stress and frustration. By practicing detachment, we recognize that these things are beyond our control, and instead of getting upset, we choose to stay calm and continue with our day. This small act of detachment is, in fact, a daily practice of resilience that prepares us to face bigger challenges with more serenity. Stoicism reminds us that life is full of ups and downs, and that trying to control everything around us is a futile and exhausting effort. True strength comes from within, from the ability to accept what life presents us and respond with wisdom and tranquility. An example of this is the practice of visualizing the worst possible scenarios, a technique the Stoics called premeditatio malorum. By imagining what could go wrong, we mentally prepare for these situations and at the same time detach from the fear that they might actually occur. This gives us an inner peace that strengthens our resilience in the face of real difficulties. By embracing detachment as a constant practice, we begin to build resilience that allows us to keep moving forward, even in the face of the most difficult obstacles. We are no longer slaves to circumstances, but masters of our reactions. This gives us a sense of freedom and power that is invaluable. Stoicism teaches us that a full and happy life is not one free of challenges, but rather one where we can face them with courage and serenity, always ready to grow and evolve. This resilience, the fruit of detachment, prepares us to live fully in the present, without being attached to what has passed or what is yet to come. In the next topic, we will explore the wisdom of living in the here and now, an essential principle for a detached and fulfilling life. Topic 9. The wisdom of the here and now. Living in the present is one of the greatest challenges of modern life, where our minds are often caught between regret for the past and anxiety about the future. However, Stoicism teaches us that the only time we truly possess is the present. This wisdom of living in the here and now is essential for practicing detachment and achieving a fulfilling life. When we focus on the present moment, we free ourselves from the worries that bind us to what has already passed or what is yet to come. The mind then calms, and we are able to experience life more deeply and meaningfully. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from the ability to live in the present. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, wrote in his Meditations about the importance of not letting oneself be consumed by past events or future expectations. He reminded us that by focusing on the now, we are in direct contact with reality, with what is tangible and true. A practical example of this philosophy is the practice of mindfulness, where one dedicates time to be completely present in an activity, whatever it may be, from a quiet walk to a simple meal. This act of being fully in the moment helps us cultivate inner peace and detach from unnecessary mental distractions. When we are focused on the present, we also become more aware of our choices and actions. This gives us the power to act more intentionally and aligned with our values, something the Stoics deeply valued. Instead of reacting impulsively to external stimuli, we begin to respond thoughtfully, with clarity and purpose. This level of awareness is only possible when we let go of worries about what we cannot control, the past that is gone and the future that has not yet arrived, and focus on what we can do now. Detachment from the past is particularly important for living in the present. Often, we carry with us regrets and grievances that prevent us from fully enjoying the current moment. The Stoics teach us that we cannot change the past, but we can change our perception and attitude towards it. A practical exercise is to re-evaluate past situations that still affect us and ask, what can I learn from this, and how can I let it go? By doing this, we begin to release the weight that binds us to the past, allowing us to live more lightly and freely. Similarly, detachment from the future helps us live with less anxiety. It is natural to want to plan and prepare for what is to come, but when this concern becomes excessive, it robs us of peace of mind. Stoicism teaches us to accept that the future is uncertain and that the control we think we have over it is often an illusion. By focusing on the present, we trust that we are doing the best we can with what we have now, and this gives us the serenity to face whatever the future brings. This wisdom of living in the present also connects us more deeply with the people and experiences around us. When we are present, we can appreciate the small moments of joy and beauty that often go unnoticed. A conversation with a friend, the taste of a good meal, the sound of rain, all these gain new meaning when we are truly present to experience them. This type of presence allows us to live more richly and gratifyingly without the constant need to seek something outside of ourselves. By practicing detachment and living in the present, we begin to realize that happiness is not something distant, always ahead of us or behind us, but something we can experience here and now. This realization leads us to understand that detachment in the small things of everyday life is equally important for a full life, something we will explore in the next topic. The choice is yours, but remember, the path to emotional freedom begins with a simple step. Why not start today? If you want to keep learning and strengthening your mind to face any challenge, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here you will always find the tools and inspiration you need to live according to Stoic principles and achieve a more fulfilling and meaningful life.